Good morning, everyone. We're coming through into the wild and woolly land of Twitch. My name is Liam Conway. I also go by... Oh, do not clap. My name is Liam Conway. I also go by Rampant Wombat in online spaces. And it's wonderful to hang out with you all today, whether you be joining us right now or if you be popping in a little bit later. Few small things to talk about. On the Onyx side, g'day Clow. On the Onyx side part of things, Onyx Path side of things, there we go, we can actually speak slowly and with some refinement. Crowdfunding for Curious Cats of Mao is taking place on BackerKit. You have 4 days to go, Australian time, to be able to engage with this and support the Cats of Mao, and as they get through the crowdfunding necessary to get a new book out. On Roll20 right now, there is a voting process for a bunch of games that you can select for Roll20 to put character sheets up, as far as I understand it. If you have the time, please head over and take a look at the Onyx Path games, like Scion, like Trinity, Continuum, like Aberrant, and get us up there. On the 23rd of the 2nd, Onyx Path Game Weekend kicks off. So that's going to be in about a week's time. Jump on board with that and see what you can do. You can find more information related to all of that in the Monday meeting notes, and that stuff will be able to be better communicated with you. G'day, little bird. Hello, Lily. So, in the past year, I've put out 4 different games, and on Twitter I went through them recently with the stuff that I'm proud of and the stuff that I'm looking at and going, okay, so I can't actually function there. And as a DM, I actually homebrew most of my campaigns, most everything, just because that's who I am. I prefer to homebrew. I don't really like running book adventures. This, when you jump between systems, this is quite difficult. G'day, Rita Chic. Because when you're dealing with different systems, you're jumping between different mindsets of play. For example, I do some game design for my D&D campaign, which is hard. It's quite difficult to engage in some of the homebrewing elements of that, because they don't quite do the same stuff that Scion in particular does, and that sort of thing. So today we're going to be doing a bit of a let's build, a bit of a look into one of the projects that I have going that I'm a little tentative on, but we'll play around with, because if you are building something and you don't necessarily know the system or haven't played the system, Storypath is much easier to balance for than other games. So we'll talk a little bit about that in terms of the core basics of Storypath, as well as how that relates specifically to Scion, as well as my project. So, if you are building something in a game, you are having to interact with the mechanics at some level. If you're running a D&D game and you just want a particularly shiny helm, okay, well, you can ask questions like, does this helm give me the ability to reflect bright light to a certain level? Does this helm, maybe this helm actually gives bright light to 5 feet, and that sort of thing. In Storypath, you don't quite have that. You don't have these designations of bright light and all that sort of stuff. You have difficulty, complications, enhancements, and momentum. So I'll go through those basic mechanics and talk about how to, build and design for them. Difficulty is basically the number of successes you have to meet for a action to be successful. If you're used to V5 or Vampire 20, those other games around that area, it functions on a similar thing. You roll your D10s, and I think it's 8 and above for Storypath. Honestly, cat, you are very irritating. My cat is very needy this morning, and it's very sweet, but also frustrating. So, in general, if you're looking at Scion Origin, and you're looking at difficulty, you're probably looking between 1 and 2 successes, maybe up to 3 or 4 if it's something particularly fancy. Now, this is for the basic action that a player wants to do. If they are doing a basic action like jumping a fence, but there's barbed wire on it, that becomes a complication. This means that if you succeed in jumping the fence or evading the police for some reason, but in the process, in the case of evading police, you jump over the car with a mob boss in it, you must expend successes on the mob boss maybe not noticing you, or maybe being an ally or a contact of yours. That sort of thing just furthers the story, deepens what's going on. Now, if it was just the stuff on the dice, high difficulty with lots of complication things would be incredibly punishing. Complications themselves only take place if you succeed, so you have to succeed and get additional successes to negate some of the complications. That's where enhancements come in, and these can be equipment bonuses. These can be situational bonuses. These can be maybe just a passive buff that you have at all times to help you do things. Now, those are the basic mechanics. Within this, you also have things like stunts. If you succeed in something and you beat all of the complications, stunts keep your character moving and keep your character on the front foot. Scion is a cinematic game, and the Storypath system is a cinematic system. It's all about keeping the game flow moving and not having to reference rules too often. If you fail, however, a consolation takes place, and that's a minor effect of the failure that helps to aid the player in some way. Now, this can be, you meet someone who comes along later because you didn't jump the fence, you got caught, but a security guard who's maybe a bit sympathetic for your cause comes along and helps. Or you jump over the mob boss's car just as their bodyguard is stepping out and they just grab you, and you failed. You're not going to get the thing you wanted. But now you have an opportunity to talk your way out of the situation. And maybe that's actually what you're better at. So those are the basic mechanics. And I'll pull that. Oh, thank you, little bird. I'll just adjust this so that you can see some of my notes on this. Because I made notes in a library. So when you're looking at doing any sort of design, you have to choose how your design is going to interact with the mechanic. If you're doing in D&D, the most basic design is normally creating a cantrip or a spell of some description. And that's difficult. That's actually very difficult. Because what you're having to do is you're not just having to gauge the kind of effect in general, not everything is balanced, particularly in 5e. So this is where Scion actually is extremely strong, and all of Storypath is really, really strong, because you can figure out how to balance something. In the case of Origin, now Origin is your, I'm a human but a little bit fancier, I've got a little bit going on. You have knacks. Knacks are the magic powers that you get. These are equivalent to +2 in enhancements. Continuing my my skill in not spelling very well. +2 in enhancements, or +2 in momentum. This is an equivalent bonus of 2 skill dots on your sheet, or basically 10 XP going into what you're doing, which they balance with XP. Knacks are easy to build. And so if you're looking at designing anything, just take a look at the Scion character sheet and go, okay, maybe there's a larceny skill. Someone with this knack is going to have, if they fail their larceny, they generate +2 momentum, or they generate an additional momentum towards their goal. This means that when momentum happens, and you want to spend it either on another knack or adding dice to your pool as a party, momentum keeps the game running. If you're playing at hero level, so Scion is really well designed in the fact that its tiers are incredibly distinct. If you're running at a hero level, momentum becomes much more important, because it's likely you're going to fail more because you're trying to do bigger things. Okay? So you have to expend momentum. You're drawing away from the group's pool. And the basic addition is +3 to your enhancement. If we were to transfer this into dice, with an 8 being a success, that's the equivalent of 9 dice. Because statistically you would expect 3 of that 9 to get a success. You then have things like purviews for heroes, which, once again, +2 to being to an enhancement, or +3 to a complication. Boons are in general a +3 enhancement. So if we're looking at that sort of design, we're looking at something at very set values that makes things actually very easy for you to play with and very easy for you to engage with. So that is how you may want to use design in Scion. Demigod adds more. It's a tier up, so you're dealing with even more stuff. You're dealing with more powerful knacks, and then there's God later on, which I don't have yet, and that is another level of power. So, how can you design for this? Well, in my case, the Unremembered of Lost Shores. This is the group that I'm kind of designing for. I'm a little hesitant on, because I'm a bit worried about how cultural appropriation will go. Scion crosses many boundaries and is more about who you as a character feels association in terms of your deity with, and what your deity has done or created. For me, I'm a little sensitive around some of those areas, so a little wibbly. But let's talk about designing some things. If we're looking at deities, the unremembered of lost shores are forgotten gods. If you've watched American Gods or you've seen American Gods, read American Gods, I should say, you kind of are aware that some of the gods hang around a bit and they siphon off little portions of emotion or fear or worship that maybe people don't remember. The unremembered of lost shores are those who are not remembered, but are still in some way, there is a pattern, there is worship done. One of the examples, if you're from Europe, is knock on wood. Why do you knock on wood? It's not connected to any of the deities that we actually have. It's not Christian in origin. It seems to be even more ancient than that. There's some solid evidence to indicate that it may actually be from a time of these unremembered gods. So the unremembered are those gods who are just waking up or kind of coming back into the world, more confused. They're not titans who have fully succumbed to their purview and embodied it. They are gods who have their purview, but also have their character. There's that difference going on. So, we're going to design a couple of knacks for these guys. Knacks being those magical powers that I was talking about earlier. And they're supposed to play into this idea of memory. So you already have some of that with the liminal knacks. Some of them adjust memory or manipulate memory in some way. For these guys, you're looking at things that play around with memory, manipulate time, manipulate perspective, and bring about a more ancient feeling in humans. Something that reminds us that we're not just people, but we are in fact animals who have lost their fur and wear clothes and that sort of thing. So, a knack of this design may be memorandum. Don't want that bold. Memorandum. Your Scion is connected to the flow of memory from the distant past. When you are choose a relevant knack skill, and this is where we suggest a knack skill. We'll jump to Scion, Origin, because this is supposed to be a reasonably small a reasonably simple power. We're looking at the Origin level. So, jumping to Eric Donner, he's not the person we're going to base this off, but he is the person we're going to look at for skill suggestions. So, we're looking for Memorandum. When choosing a relevant next skill, like academics, culture, or occult. So we're going a bit more mental focus with this. To understand a forgotten or ancient piece of lore. take a +2 enhancement. Any successful roll. Now, that's nice and simple, nice and easy. Let's double check the knacks here. In general, we're looking at something like Aura, you can't see, Aura of Greatness as a basis. The Scion affects the people around them, inspiring them, choose a social skill. And here we go, the timing. So, anyone around them may add enhancement 2 as a bonus, once per session. Oh no, the Scion adds the enhancement. Okay. Any successful roll once per session. Okay, simple design. This is the advantage of Scion if you're looking at maybe doing a book of knacks for the different types. Maybe you're looking at some of them here for Origin, and you're going, actually, I think we can add a bit more to Creator, Guardian, and Leader. I've got maybe 5 or 6 that I'm going to throw together. Throw them in and throw them up. It doesn't have to be much for us to enjoy and for us to read through and judge on. If you are deliberate in your framing and your theming, that's amazing. And you can take inspiration from any number of areas, of course, but just give it a go. See what happens. Alright, that's memorandum. Working title. I'm just going to steal from Mage the Ascension, Teleos. Teleos is Greek for completeness. Teleos is also occasionally used in relation to mages going on deep journeys into their souls and into the world soul. Alright, next, working title, Teleos. And if anybody, for those of you who are in chat, if you have any ideas, and I will just double check, I've got a few watchers. If you have any ideas, feel free to throw them up, and maybe we can build them together, and you can take credit for them and throw them into the game jam. We'd love to see some entries, even from those who are just starting on their journey, who are maybe a little pre-visitation of a game. Okay. Oh, I had an idea. Woo! Hey, Jowsy. How you doing? I just had an interesting idea. Now, what is it called? It is the Greek clockwork device. Antikythera mechanism. Kythera mechanism. Mechanic. Now, I suspect that the creator knacks may have a little bit of relation and crossover here, because we're talking about ancient things and we're engaging with ancient things. So it's going to be a little different. Okay. Relics of the past lay broken across the Scions. across the world. Some are known to the world, some are kept hidden and secret for the Scion to uncover. When across an unknown ancient relic, the Scion may ancient and complex relic. So for this one, we're looking at maybe a bit more into the hero area, where we're looking at a power that is designed to make life a little easier for the Scion, although this could be used in any different way. In this case, the Scion may roll. Ooh, that's an interesting idea. Character creation. So we're going to look at this. Scions get virtues based off some of their paths. So for this, we're going to have an intellect plus calling roll. Relate to host to be. A knack. Same. Now next. Okay, cool. So calling here. Calling used. So maybe for this one, you have this as a remnant of a time before, and you come across a spear, a stone spear that was used to pierce the hide of a bear as a form of sacrifice. You come across it, you roll your intellect plus calling, and the relic awakens. And of the calling that you rolled, maybe it was creator or warrior, the relic generates a knack of that same calling used. This knack may be used only once per session. This relic knack, and when it is used, the relic dims, unable to support continual godly support, the power of continual form. Okay, you come across an ancient item, you pick it up, you look at it, you invest a little bit of your calling into this, and the relic awakens to generate a knack of that same calling that you may use once once per, let's go story instead of session. Repeated use of this knack. Oops. On an item will imbue more knacks over time, but they each use increases difficulty by 2. So this is to, you don't want a power ever to be spammable, right? You don't want wizards in D&D to have unlimited fireball. You don't want changelings, for example, to have unlimited use of spinner's wheel. You don't want your Scion to be able to pick up a random bit of rock, go, I think this is a magical item imbued by a god, and just slap it, get a new knack, because a knack is the equivalent of 10 XP, and then use that knack repeatedly. You want it to be a one-time event, and if you are repeatedly using the same powers, the same knacks and the same powers, the difficulty has to increase. That way, you know, whilst this is powerful, it's playing into the psychology of the player, right? It is playing into, I could use this potentially powerful item now, or I could wait and hold off for if something happens. And that sort of psychology with the player makes it a very balanced power, in my opinion. It's a lot like magic weapon in D&D, except nobody casts magic weapon because buffing players feels bad in that system. Okay, so those are 2 knacks. They are designed to be used at an origin level. So they're pretty simple. They're not too problematic. Excuse you. What if we want to use knacks at a hero level? Well, we'll just scan to immortal. Do you mind, Adobe? Please, continue to freak out. We love you for this. Okay, you sorted? Okay, cool. Let's go lifted from dust as a basic thing. When you work on a creative project that would cover a massive scale, so planning a city or designing a civilization, something big. A scale is one of the kind of malleable things that can be played around with in knacks. If you're used to Mage the Awakening, you will understand scale as a spell component. In this, we're just going to keep it super simple. Imbue a point of legend rather than spending to invoke your legendary title as a feat of scale. So, pump legend into something and it will boost it considerably. I haven't read the full rules on that, so I made a very bad point. Here's another one. Raise the pillars of the earth. Make a creator skill roll. With any successes, you create a small building, structure, or monument in a matter of minutes, which grows from nothing but rocks and dirt. To raise a creation in a scant instant, spend momentum. Okay. So that gives us a bit of an idea of the power level we can play here. So, immortal knack. Immortal. This sort of thing needs to have a little bit of guts behind it. So, got one. Atavism. Now, here is where we have to be careful. If you're doing design of any description, and that's why I'm a little bit wibbly with the Unremembered of Lost Shores. The Unremembered are gods and deities who are animistic in nature. They are ancient. They are kind of like 10,000 years. They're pre-agricultural deities. Ordinarily, I would always say be careful of cultural appropriation. In this, I would generally say be careful of lampooning something that is still used in the modern world. In this case, atavism is still a thing. It is still a thing practiced by, animism, of which atavism is a subset in a few ways. It is taking on a spiritual element of Aboriginal Australians, of Indigenous Americans, of the Sami people, of, I believe Mongolian folk religion has a very animistic viewpoint. So for this, we want to be careful and not just blithely go, we can throw on, in my context, I'm in Australia, the totem of the thylacine. That's not appropriate. However, taking on with atavism, say, you embody an element of the natural world. Okay, so we're taking it away from the spiritualism and trying to say this is something that is different to the legitimate beliefs of other people. You embody an element of the natural world and its relationship to humanity that humanity may have forgotten. Okay, so this is an important thing. Humanity may have forgotten this. So if you're doing this, don't draw from, say, the trickster nature of the Tasmanian devil in Palawa mythology. If you want a story on that, I recommend Taraba. It's a really great picture book that has been done in Tassie. You're also not taking on the rainbow serpent mythology because we remember it. And that's the difference. If you're talking about culturally inclusive gaming, you cannot be taking what people presently believe or that have historically believed and then lampooning it and minimizing that faith. You have to treat it seriously. Embodying a portion of the natural world that has a relationship to humanity that we may have forgotten does that because it says, yes, we have this relationship, but this is a different interpretation of that relationship. Okay? You embody an element of the natural world and its relationship to... So I'm going to draw a little bit more from Heroic Guardian, or Immortal Guardian. Or Hunter. Yes, Immortal Hunter, actually. That's camouflage, always there. You can track them down at any point. You can designate a legend to pursue someone. Yeah. Okay. You carry a portion of that animal about you and can embody it as its legend acts within you. Okay. So choose actually this is the tricky part of design, right? You're looking at a bunch of things and you're going, I can't do this, but I want to be able to do some of this stuff. Just have to be patient and work through. And pick out some of the maybe lower tier things. So I'm looking at Warrior now. It has this stuff called Close the Gap, where you make a knack skill roll, and instead of spending successes, you spend successes to do these stunts. So in this context, make a knack skill roll. We'll just take the straight wording from the book. To spend successes on the following stunts for the rest of the fight. We'll go rest of the scene. One success, or one stunt. You gain the natural weaponry of your chosen creature. So if I'm going to base this under an understanding of the snake as a concept, as the creature. So you gain the fangs of a snake. One success. You gain natural defenses of your chosen creature. You may add +1 to defense and to armor. So I thought one success would be enough. I don't think it is enough. I think 2 successes you should add defense. Defense in Scion is a little bit more expensive, as it is in a lot of games, because defensive actions, it's not that they're punished more, it's just that when you're playing a game that is cinematic in nature, you want to be pressing ahead, and defense tends not to feel like you are pressing ahead. So having that sort of basic power is helpful. You gain the now I'm thinking of a snake, so I want poison, but not venoms or additional I know what I'm saying there. Let's not put XXX on Twitch. They'll probably ban us just in case. You gain the venomous, bacterial, or poisonous elements of your chosen creature. As this has gone on, this starting sentence doesn't make sense. An animal. My mind was animal, but element of the natural world could mean plants. It could mean a ravine. It could mean anything. If you're designing, you want to be as specific as you can be to take out as much vaguity as possible, even in a storytelling system, which can sometimes be a little vague. If you've ever played Changeling or Mage the Awakening, you know that these games can be a little vague with their terms. Even so. Okay. And for this final one, 4 successes, you may fully change your form to that of your chosen creature. So, in a lot of what we know about more primitive religions that tend to engage in more worship of the natural world, a large portion of what they do is a thing I've got mentioned here, which is sympathetic magic. Sympathetic magic is I am taking on the elements of a particular creature. Often if you look at Helong, or whatever they are, they're a Swedish, I think, pagan band. The antlered crown is something that is particularly used across European faiths. Particularly Northern European, you're looking at Celtic and Germanic style faiths where wearing the deer antlers helm gives you authority, it gives you leadership, it gives you strength within this world. So sympathetic magic plays off your relationship to the thing. So that's where atavism as a skill comes in. You are taking on your chosen creature's sympathetic system. And I don't know if Scion actually has animal stat blocks. I'm just going to double check. Antagonists. It's got Men in Black, and Amazon. Centaur, Kitsune. No, Origin doesn't appear to have animals as base antagonist, but I'm sure if you wanted to, you could stat out animals for this, or you could use animals as your basis, or use some of the species in here as your basis. Just double check hero, because that's an interesting niche if you wanted to step into it. Example antagonists. I would also, in this case, say we were looking at hero. So you should be looking at hero for this. I would want to remove powerful creatures like basilisks. You do not want your player to transform into the King of Serpents. You want them to transform into an serpent. You don't want them to transform into a Hydra. That is too powerful. So drop them down just a little bit. Octavian Guy's Caesar. That's amazing. Oh, I love that. Also, vampires, don't add them in. So that's the idea with this sort of design. Scion is really easy with it, and I think all of the Storypath games give you such good scaffolding for design that when you start to apply those principles into other games, I'm thinking particularly of D&D, you start asking questions like, what actual value is +1 to your weapon? And that's a legitimate question. Because in this, +1 to defense and armor is quite a sizable buff. I believe defense is the base difficulty that someone needs to hit you. So a player generally starts at 1 defense because you just need to get 1 success to hit someone. And then armor soaks additional successes. It's a complication style thing. So that sort of thing is what's going on. That shocked me. A little picture frame dropped down. For those in chat, any questions that I can help with? Any ideas you want to throw out? Any perspectives you want to give? You have 5 minutes. Let's get this up again. Just on the basis of this, I'm looking up some of the other pantheons and how the writing is done for them. Now, the Unremembered are designed to be the gods who are forgotten and then remembered. They are designed to be characters that when you perform a simple ritual, they remember you. And when they visit a Scion, it is not in the same ways that, say, the Kami would, or the Aesir. When the Unremembered visit you, because they have no religion to draw from, they are different sorts of birthright. They have different sorts of birthrights. Instead, they are the forgotten, who are remembered by simple rites. And if I manage to finish this in time, these will be the deities of people who are undergoing terrible oppression, whose names are forgotten, whose voices are unheard. The main design for these comes from the god of Arepo, of I am a god of simple boundaries, of crawling things. I am the god of Arepo. So, that's my time up. Thank you very much for kicking around. Thank you very much for listening to me ramble about design. I really like this, and I really enjoy the design of of Storypath games. So I will be seeing you around. Have a good one, guys.